Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
Boruto episode 197 review. Alright guys, this episode was pretty much everything that I thought it was going to be. It's definitely a very good episode. There's a lot of things that happen in this episode. One of the first things that I definitely do want to talk about is of course the character of Kashin Koji. Kashin Koji day by day has been looking more and more like Jiraiya, and I talked about this as soon as we got to see Kashin Koji with the toad eyes. That looks like literally straight ripped from the design of Jiraiya when he was in Sage Mode. Obviously we know that Kashin Koji is not in Sage Mode right now. We don't even really know if he has anything like a Sage Mode, but just regardless, he just looks everything like Jiraiya. Now, one of the things that was pretty much made a big deal in this episode that we haven't necessarily heard about in the past couple of episodes is the Traitor in the Kado organization. And because there was like a back-to-back scene where they were talking about the traitors and then we got to see Kashin Koji, that right there looked very, very suspicious to me. Now, in regards to the two culprits that I personally think is probably going to be, it has to be either Kashin Koji or it has to be Boro. One of the first things that we found out, or one of the first clues that we did get that was going to be one of these two or possibly both of them, is the fact that they didn't necessarily get the quote-unquote update from Amado. Now, I'm not 100% sure how Amado would have got this information, but Amado pretty much said that once he had basically had everybody do their updates, he would have possibly seen exactly who was the traitor. And of course, the two people that he did not see at this particular point is Kashin Koji and is Boro as well. Now, Kashin Koji, in my opinion, this man has the lead. He's been doing shady stuff from the jump. One of the first things that we did see is, of course, him pretty much letting Boruto and everybody else slide with Kawaki. At that particular point, in my opinion, I thought he was definitely justified because something brand new popped up. No one in the Kado organization knew that Boruto had a karma seal, but now in this episode right here, it just went absolutely left with Kashin Koji. Kashin Koji said he wasn't even going to interfere with Kawaki. I talked about this in a couple of my reviews. It just seems like Kashin Koji is on a mission of his own, and towards the end of this episode, it seemed like he was more interested with Boruto than he was with Kawaki, which just seems a little off to me. Now, of course, that doesn't necessarily 100% guarantee that Kashin Koji is going to end up being the traitor. Manga readers out there, you guys know exactly what the situation is, and you guys know exactly who the traitor is, but in this particular situation, anime-wise, it just seems like Kashin Koji is super distant and isn't 100% down for the overall mission. Now, that right there could just possibly mean that Kashin Koji just cares about his own mission and just doesn't necessarily care about the Kado organization. We've seen that happen with multiple people in the Akatsuki who are not actually conspiring against the Akatsuki. It could just be a certain situation where they feel like their personal goals are more important than the overall group's goals, and that might be the situation right here. But one thing's for sure and two things for certain: Kashin Koji and Boro are definitely going to be at the top of the list of the people who could possibly be traitors. And to remind you guys, it's not just me. Delta has been suspicious of Kashin Koji for a very long time and end up taking matters into her own hands. And not only that, in this particular episode right here, Amado is also starting to think that Kashin Koji is looking very funny in the light as well. But getting off of that topic, I do want to talk about the highlight of the episode, which was of course the Boruto versus Kawaki battle. First thing that I do want to comment on is the animation. Now, I talked about this a couple of videos ago. I did not expect this fight to be animated to like damn near perfect. It pretty much met my expectations. One of the things that I personally hate about the Boruto manga is that it definitely does not do the fights any justice in Boruto. In the Boruto manga, I'm not gonna lie to you, it really looked like Boruto and Kawaki were kind of equal when they actually did have the karma still on, which is absolutely insane because we've seen exactly what Kawaki did to Garo, and we know for 100% certain that Boruto cannot do that in his wildest dreams. But in this episode right here, it pretty much made it very clear that Kawaki was in clear control the whole time. It was more like a teaching lesson for Boruto. Obviously, they were sparring. Boruto had to go at Kawaki like he was trying to kill Kawaki, but Kawaki was just chilling. He was really just sitting back trying to see exactly what Boruto was doing. Of course, he was kind of making some sort of offensive moves as well, but a lot of times he's really trying to teach Boruto exactly what the karma seal is. And of course, you really got that sense even at the start of the battle when Kawaki had to activate his karma seal for Boruto himself to activate his karma seal, and especially at the end when he had Boruto try to absorb one of his blasts. Now, one of the interesting things that they did add in the Boruto anime is Boruto actually utilizing the Rasengan. I really don't think that this right here is actually in the Boruto manga, but regardless, in this episode right here, you got to see exactly how strong Kawaki's quote-unquote defense actually is. Like, he literally tanked Rasengan and was chilling. I think the Rasengan affected Boruto a little bit more than it affected Kawaki, to be honest. That right there just shows you how insane his defenses is. And trust me guys, I know it's way too early to speculate about, of course, a potential Boruto versus Kawaki battle in the future, but let's be honest, this is Boruto and Kawaki's first battle. We just have to speculate, but now we understand that Kawaki is most likely going to be able to defend against a regular Rasengan. The good thing about Boruto is that he has multiple different Rasengans. I personally think that if Boruto hit Kawaki right now with the compression Rasengan, Kawaki would be done. I just don't necessarily think that Boruto will be able to do that against Kawaki in a 1v1 battle, but we just understand right now that a regular Rasengan is probably not going to do much to Kawaki. I do want to kind of know, if Kawaki can actually tank a Rasengan without using the defenses. One thing that we do understand is that Kawaki could definitely take a punch because Gaara was pretty much destroying him in the battle. I want to see exactly how Kawaki would be affected if he were to actually take a Rasengan to the stomach or something like that. For example, back when Boruto fought against Deepa for the first time, Boruto hit Deepa with a Rasengan literally to the midsection, and Deepa was literally trolling Boruto. It didn't affect Deepa at all. It's literally like a mosquito bite. I want to see exactly how that is in regards to Kawaki taking a Rasengan like that. Now, obviously, the biggest part of that battle has to be the appearance of Momoshiki. This right here was absolutely insane. It took a lot of people off guard, even in the Boruto manga. If you guys weren't necessarily around when this first came out in the Boruto manga, and you guys weren't necessarily around like watching YouTube videos of us reviewing the Boruto manga content, it was absolutely insane. Everybody was freaking out. Everybody was kind of confused, man, because obviously Momoshiki has pretty much been lost for like years in regards to the actual Boruto manga and even in the Boruto anime, and now Momoshiki finally pops back up. But one thing that I could definitely tell you guys from this moment on, Momoshiki is going to have a very, very big influence in the Boruto series period. It's definitely going to be there, and of course this right here is just the first time of us seeing exactly how Momoshiki is going to be affecting Boruto in the future. Now, Momoshiki didn't necessarily do much in this particular episode right here. It was honestly just the sight of Momoshiki that really freaked Boruto out, and not only that, Momoshiki actually healed Boruto's hand. For the Boruto anime onlys out there, I want you guys to understand this scene right here to this day like literally still confuses a lot of the Boruto manga readers out there. So if you guys are confused out there, do not feel like you guys are alone. 100%. This right here seemed like a very, very freaky situation, not only for Boruto but also for Kawaki as well. One thing that we did see in this episode is the fact that Kawaki's karma still also hurt as well, but the only difference was the fact that Kawaki didn't necessarily see anybody, and this right here honestly wasn't necessarily anything too out of the ordinary. There were already scenes before when Boruto and Kawaki, they were feeling pain in the same vicinity of the karma seal at the same exact time. The only difference is that at this particular time Boruto actually did see Momoshiki Otozuki, which is absolutely insane. And of course Kashin Koji is in the back taking notes as well. Now, I definitely do want to point out some differences upon this scene. In the Boruto manga, he said that Jigen could possibly have that ability too with his karma seal, and that right there could have possibly been problematic. Now, in this scene right here in the Boruto anime, Kashin Koji said that it was an unexpected harvest. Now, this right here, I'm not necessarily exactly sure why they changed it, but when Kashin Koji says an unexpected harvest, I personally think that he was talking about Momoshiki unexpectedly coming to Earth and actually finding another vessel. I think that Kashin Koji understands that it was the doing of Momoshiki. Of course, we understand that Kashin Koji isn't necessarily 100% tapped in on all the ins and outs of the karma seal, but I 100% think that he has some sort of knowledge about exactly how someone gets the karma seal, because of course he's been around Kawaki and Jigen for a very long time, and of course he probably knows exactly how those two got their karma seals as well. Now, at the end of the episode, Delta actually pulls up, and this right here was of course the regular Boruto cliffhanger, and of course we understand that in the next episode we are going to get to see Naruto throw hands for the first time in a very long time. I'm super excited to see that exactly, and of course I'm also super excited to see Naruto go against an insider of the Kata organization. We already seen two of the, I'd arguably say, the weaker Kata organization members, specifically Deepa and Victor, and we 100% know that they were the weaker ones of the Kata insiders because Kashin Koji destroyed Victor in literally, like, I'd say under 5 seconds. So obviously Delta and Kashin Koji, they're probably going to be on a completely different level, and because of that I don't necessarily expect this fight to be anything too quick. But let me know what you guys think about this episode in the comment section below, and give me some of your opinions about the Traitor of the Kata organization. Again, Kashin Koji looks very, very suspicious, but another thing that pretty much makes me a little bit think that Kashin Koji is not necessarily the traitor is that we've seen Kashin Koji, we know what his motives are. It doesn't necessarily seem like his motives are going to be to destroy the Kata organization. It just seems like he's a little bit more interested in Boruto at this particular point. Boruto, on the other hand, it seems like he's just completely distant, and it might actually mean that, hey, he's the actual traitor. But let me know what you guys think. It's me, your boy Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.